Welcome to science class today, 8th grade. We're on our weekly assignment checklist for this week, September 8th through the 11th. You go down to Tuesday, you're going to see what it is that we're going to take care of today. I'm going to go through each of these links and show you how you would go about solving said assessments. Today we've got some activities that are going to check on what we've learned so far and also be the end of what would be chapter 1. We don't have a formal test to start out in chapter 1. We will have a review that will work as a quiz or a test that is graded as we go. I'll show you each of those items. The first is our IXL assignment, 8.1, the scientific method. If I click on that link and open up my IXL account, it should take me right to that specific skill. As that's loading, here'd be a chance to remind yourself when you're going to IXL to always make sure that you are logged in. To always make sure that right up here it says your name. If it doesn't say sign in, you have to make sure that you have signed in to that specific account. Either go through Clever to sign in or go through our Google Classroom link to get into with Google. Let's get started. This is 8.1. Identify steps of the scientific method. You learn the scientific method in our 6 specific steps. Here you're going to be given a passage or a little bit of a reading, and then it's going to ask you to pick out what it is that they're trying to identify, what step in the scientific method. Here it says the passage below describes some of the steps of the scientific method. Select the part of the passage that describes the hypothesis. Remember, hypothesis is an educated guess. It even provides for me a hint. To develop a hypothesis, use prior knowledge to propose a possible explanation and to make a prediction that can be tested. Okay, we're looking for some maybe prior knowledge that's talked about, possible explanation, and then a prediction, an educated guess. Let's go ahead and read through this example. My example might not be the exact same one as that you get, but you'll see how this works. Before practice, the members of the Oak Grove High School basketball team inflated the team's basketballs to a pressure of 8 pounds per square inch. The team members wondered if the air pressure in the basketball would affect bounciness. Wondered sounds like they're asking a question, beginning part of our scientific method. They thought that if bounciness depended on air pressure, then basketballs inflated to a higher pressure would bounce higher. That sounds like some prior knowledge, and they're trying to make a possible explanation. They thought if it was bounciness depended on air pressure, then basketballs inflated to a higher bounce. The team members inflated 10 basketballs. This sounds like they're doing something. So here's their educated guess. We're going to click on that. You'll notice that it highlights the entire section. As you go, we click on that one to lock that in as their answer. Let's see if we got it right. Click submit, and boom, it tells me wonderful. You see that I've answered one question in what would be the course of this minute, and I'm working towards building this mastery and identifying the step. The next one, you read through the direction, it provides a different challenge. This one says identify the question from the passage below. Gives you a hint to identify the question. Pose a question that focuses on a problem. Here's our scenario. Tammy grew roses for a flower shop. One day she noticed tumor-like growths on her rose stems. She read a book about plant disease and learned that the plants had grown gall disease, which is caused by a type of bacteria. She read that allicin, a chemical in garlic, can kill this bacteria. She was curious if garlic could prevent more tumors from growing on her plants. She sprayed garlic juice on 10 infected plants and watered on them. After 1 month, she compared the number of new tumors to plants on each group and found no difference between the groups. She thought that the concentration of allicin in her garlic spray might be too low, so spraying the plants with pure allicin would decrease the number of new tumors. She repeated her experiment, this time spraying the plants with a solution of pure allicin. Now, where was the question? Where was the question? She read, she was curious. Is being curious a question? Let's give it a try. Excellent. Next, it goes back to asking about a hypothesis. So at the very top of the page, you're going to find out what it is that you're looking for in that scientific method, and then trying to read through and identify each of those portions. That's step 1. Step 2 asks us to identify controls in an experiment In our experimental design, we understand that you have to have some type of thing that you're going to change in the experiment and something that you're going to keep exactly the same. So when we're practicing understanding what is part of our scientific method, the experimental design process comes with understanding that you need a control and you need something that's going to be your variable or your change. The passage below describes an experiment. In this experiment, which part was the control group? Desmond noticed that he could make a dome of water on a penny if he added drops of water slowly enough. Maybe you did this in Mr. Bloom's class last year. He wondered if adding soap to the water would allow him to fit more or less water on the penny. Desmond put equal-sized drops of pure water one at a time onto a penny. He recorded the number of drops he could add before the water spilled over the edge of the penny. Then he rinsed and dried the penny and repeated the test using water mixed with hand soap. Desmond repeated these trials on 7 additional pennies. What would be the control group, the part that does not change? Pure water or water with soap? Obviously water with water, nothing else. And boom, got it correct. Now here again you have a passage describing an experiment, and it's asking you in the question, in this experiment, which is the experimental group. Again, our experimental group is the part that is changing. So take a look at the 2 scenarios, what is being kept the same and what is being changed. And then you're going to make your designation. So I didn't read this yet, I'm not going to answer. Read through it and then provide your answer and submit. Keep going until you've got that level of mastery. Thirdly, in our assessment of what we learned in Chapter 1, after talking about controls, we're going to talk about variables. We learned about what would be called independent and dependent variables. Independent variable is a part of an experiment that is specifically changed, and the dependent variable is what changes as a result of that independent variable. Again, you're going to see a pattern here. Read the passage and then answer the corresponding question or identify what it is that you're looking for. It might be helpful to have your textbook open to each of these sections to then reaffirm the definition so you have a full understanding, and then look for the application of that understanding in each of these sections. Find where that dependent variable is. Let's do this one together. Nate often saw woodpeckers perched in trees in his backyard, but he never saw them at his bird feeders. Nate usually filled his feeders with sunflower seeds. He wondered if he could attract woodpeckers by adding a different type of food to the feeders. To test this idea, Nate gathered 8 identical bird feeders. He filled 4 with sunflower seeds. He filled the remaining 4 feeders with crushed peanuts. Nate then placed the bird feeders in his backyard. Over the next 5 days, he counted the number of woodpeckers that visited each bird feeder each morning. Which of these was the dependent variable? Remember, independent is what has changed. So he has 4 feeders that are one thing and then 4 feeders that are another between sunflower seeds and peanuts. The dependent variable is what was the result of that specific change. Is the type of food used in the bird feeder the dependent variable, or is the number of woodpeckers that visited the feeder the dependent variable? I would say the independent variable, the thing that he changed specifically, is the type of food, and then if those birds showed up was what was dependent upon the food. You're going to go eat what you like. When you go to a restaurant, you order what you like. In nature, animals are going to eat what they like based on what's available to them. Survival of the fittest obviously comes into play, but they're going to eat what they prefer if those options are there. So our dependent variable, the birds visiting, was dependent upon the type of food. And we've got it correct. Each of these is going to give you a couple chances to practice, and what I would do is make sure that you read the entire passage through and then look specifically at what the question is asking you to do. Last one was dependent variable. This one in bold letters says what's the independent variable. Notice the difference between those and then find that through each section. You've got 3 of those IXL activities to work through, and then the final activity is your assessments, quiz, test, whatever you'd like to call it, as our review from our chapter. You click on this. It's not accepting responses right now, but it will be open once you've clicked on this video, and complete that activity. Click submit. It'll automatically submit your username for me, and then I'll have that in the gradebook as soon as I get those submissions. Thank you. Have a blessed day.